Hi guys, it's ALCHEMY. How's everyone doing? Good, I hope. It's time to talk about NEZ magazine. Haven't done one for quite a while. Yeah, as usual, way behind. I have 4 or 5 issues that I need to talk about that I've purchased and haven't read yet. But I just finished this one, so yay for that, right? If anyone that's subscribed to me hasn't seen my NEZ magazine reviews before, I read this magazine avidly. I collect them, I buy them, I relish them, I savour them. I feel like it's the Vogue for perfume lovers. You know, Vogue's the fashion lovers. NEZ magazine is created for perfume lovers. If you, like me, have a thirst for perfume knowledge on every level of the spectrum, not just about materials, I'm talking about brands, I'm talking about trends, I'm talking about perfume reviews. Just this magazine packs in so much information. It's a biannual magazine. It comes out twice a year. That's what biannual means. Just thought I'd explain it in case you didn't know. And yeah, I always say it's really rereadable. I have read the first quarter of this magazine 3 times and still there's things that I forgot that I even read. It's just a lot. Anyway, this video serves to kind of skim through it, show you a little bit about it, and talk about things that I found interesting or things that I learned while reading this, and hopefully it inspires you to maybe add it to your, you know, I keep them down here in my perfume cabinet. This thing is 6 levels high, guys. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah. There's 2 levels up and there's 2 levels down. And my NEZ magazines are all neatly in a row. So this is issue 9, and the main theme of this, if you couldn't guess from the aeroplane, it's centered around perfume and travel. Perfumery's relationship to travel on many levels. It goes into a lot of detail. The main article is always the bit that makes my brain hurt because there's so much going on in it. But there's a lot of fun stuff too, and mine's become a little bit dog-eared and I don't like that. Look, oh, I don't like that. I think I want to get a new one. Anyway, let's start. So the first thing to say, this was the summer 2020 issue, and what's quite surprising is we all know what happened in the summer of 2020. The dreaded Rona came and changed our lives forever, and it's strange that this issue, oh my god, how do I word this, is centered around travel, because that was a time when nobody could travel, right? And the foreword that's written at the beginning is very beautiful, and it's about that. It's about, hey, this virus has swept away our lives and none of us can travel, so we invite you to travel through olfactory reading, basically. And I thought that was really cool, because you can imagine this must take a lot of work. They only come out twice a year. So the theme was probably already set. It just happened that this issue was the one just as the coronavirus really started to take hold of the world. So yeah, I hope I don't bring any kind of PTSD or bad memories for anyone talking about that, but I just thought when I read it recently, I just thought, wow, that's very cool, or very poignant, or just very universally, I don't know, this is meant to happen. Anyway, so the foreword's called The Scent of Elsewhere, and that is what that's about. I won't read it to you. You can read it for yourself if you so happen to buy it. By the way, they cost £20, which I think for 6 months, it's a lot of reading. So yeah, there's an advert at the beginning which I found interesting. It's an advert for Dreamwood, which at the time was Firmenish's new material that they had discovered, produced, released, I don't know, made, and it's apparently it mimics Mysore sandalwood, and I bet the perfume companies were jumping on that one to buy it, because as we know, Mysore sandalwood is over harvested. So the first actual part of the magazine is called The Scent of Aviation. We're in the travel theme, don't forget. So what they did is they interviewed 4 people. 2 of them were flight attendants, one of them is a pilot, and the other one is a mechanic. And it asks them questions about the smells that they encounter in their jobs, which ones do they like, which ones do they not like, and what perfume they wear as well. So there's 4 people. Look how cute. I mean, the way this magazine looks is just so cute. I love it. The illustrations, everything like that. What stuck out to me about this one is one of the flight attendants. She didn't seem like she really liked her job that much, or she didn't like the smell of her job. She talks about the rancidness of the carpet in the cabin, the pressurized air smell, the smell of vomit, she said, which is very difficult to get out of the upholstery of the chairs. Mingled that with the smell of the food. Like, apparently she just really didn't like it. The pilot one was interesting as well, talking about the smell of the fuel that enters their very small space. So yeah, I liked that tie-in to the travel theme. Interview the people that are in the travel industry and ask them about smells. So yeah, it's super great. So then you have icons. They always talk about icons here, whether they're perfumers or people in history. Well, they are people in history actually. This one's got Cleopatra. It's got Eugene Rimmel, you know, the makeup person who invented mascara, who apparently was a perfumer before he made mascara. So I liked that as well. You learn so much. You really, really do. So as I said, if you've got a thirst for knowledge and just little tidbits of stuff, fun facts that, you know, that might come up in a quiz one day. You never know. You could be at a quiz, you could be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it says, the inventor of Rimmel, the mascara, what did he do before that? And you'd be like, oh, he was a perfumer, just won $1 million, or pounds, or any other currency, take your pick. So the next part, that they always have this part in the magazine, it's called Odorama, and it's a kind of 6 or 7 page article where they first focus on a molecule. The turn of this one was isobutylquinoline. It talks about its uses in perfumery, how it smells, how perfumers use it. Then it gives you suggestions of perfumes that contain it, the molecular structure of it. And this one, I can't really remember what it's supposed to smell like. Oh, what does it smell like? There's a section here, just in case you're wondering, right there. It says, according to Veronique Nyberg, Vice President of Fine Fragrance Creation at Maine, pure isobutylquinoline has an earthy scent, leather with vetiver facets and animalic accents. I learned a lot about it. It's really, really good. Then it always goes to a natural material. This time it was the turn of saffron. Look at these illustrations, they're so pretty. I love the colors. Tells you about the harvest, it tells you about the history, it tells you about the trade routes, and then it tells you about how it's now synthetically reproduced, because obviously it's a very expensive material, with perfume suggestions, as always, down the side. Oh, just makes me happy. Then they always take a scenario or a place. They've done the gym, they've done a child's bedroom, they've done, I can't remember the other ones, but this one is the beach. So it talks about all the different smells you find at the beach, and goes into a little bit of detail about where they come from. This one's got obviously sunscreen, it's got the inflatable plastic things that you use, the beach mat, it's got the shore itself, the shells, and it talked a bit, what did I remember from this part? It talked about sand and how sand actually doesn't have an odor at all. The odor of sand comes from the water that has impregnated it, or it's actually the water itself and the algae and the sea plants that are ingrained into the sand. So that was pretty cool. I liked this one. This was quite a fun one. The rubber rings, the beach mat as well. I really like that one. I mean, who uses a beach mat? I know that I've never used one. Anyway, then it goes to connections. And this bit was a little bit macabre and it made my brain hurt a little bit. It talks about a poetry book by a poet called, I can't remember his name, Lautremont, I don't know. He wrote this very weird poetry book that really incorporated or invited the reader to explore their olfactory kind of memories, and it was very graphic and weird. It kind of reminded me of a film called The Cell with Jennifer Lopez. Just otherworldly, weird, crazy stuff, and it was kind of like flesh eating, and it was a bit religious in a very negative way. Anyway, it's a whole thing about that. Then this I absolutely loved. I don't know if I told you, no, I didn't tell you yet. Most NEZ magazines, name magazines, come with a scratch and sniff, burning with desire. So there's a scratch and sniff card here, and the scratch and sniff of this issue is gone, but it's related to this, Woossalan. Woossalan is this, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to remember and I don't wanna get it wrong. If I offend anyone, I'm really sorry. They went to speak to a lady who makes this kind of powder blend and burns it kind of like an incense. That scratch and sniff smelled like it. If it was a perfume, I would wear it. So they went to her house, they took photos of her. Look, the photography always makes me so happy. It's just really beautiful, really arty. And just talked about how she makes it and what goes into it. I found that very interesting. I really like that one. Then there's some just cool photography. I won't show you every single thing, but some of these things you could even, you know, if you could cut them out and use them. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't cut things out of this magazine. It has to remain how it is. Don't mess with my OCD, okay? Then the next part is they always interview somebody that is an expert in their field. They have done tea people, they've done whiskey, they've done coffee. And this time it was the turn of a guy who makes olive oil. This handsome chap right here. So he talks about the different types of olives from different regions and the blends, and yeah, look, photography again. Super cool. I'd love to go to like an olive oil tasting thing. That's really in depth. There's a little bit about an art piece. They always have a painting that they discuss as well. This time it was the turn of the roses. This one. What I find is I always look at the picture, and then when I read the article, I notice things that I didn't notice at first glance, the detail that they talk about. So that's always really good. Then you have magazine. This one's talking about ginger, photography in your face, the harvest of ginger, the people that do it, how it's done, how it's used, spicy roots. And then again, as always, perfume suggestions. But look, it's just, I don't know, it's all just done with a bit of class. I just love it. So the next bit is always one of my favorite parts of the magazine, and it's an interview with a master perfumer. This time they interviewed Alberto Morillas, this guy. The first thing I noticed about this was his fashion sense. They ask very poignant questions. They ask very in-depth questions. Their inspirations. Look at that. Hello. I definitely wear those socks. It says here, my approach to perfumery centers on pleasure, so the creative act can't be unpleasant. You'd be able to tell. Talks about his perfumes. He made CK1, he made Pleasures by Estee Lauder, he made Flower by Kenzo, he made Bloom for Gucci. And then we come to the decades part. I'm waiting, have we had the 90s already? I'm not sure. But this one was the 60s. Photography again. Look at these outfits, look at this hair. Love it. Talks about trends in the 60s, the most famous perfumes from the 60s. They do a different one every episode, every issue. I'm just wondering that because they're gonna run out. We're on issue 14. They're currently on issue 14 and this is issue 9. Maybe they'll just change it. I don't know. Anyway, there's always the fantasy perfumery where they take celebrities, or even if they're dead, it just, as long as they're celebrities, it can even be fantasy characters as well. They've done Harry Potter, I think. But these are people from the 60s. They pretend like they've entered a boutique and then they pair them together with a perfume. So this one's got Janis Joplin, it's got Jackie Kennedy, people like that. Paul Bocuse, I don't know who that is. Then we come to the main article. This is around the world. So this has got mini articles all the way through it, and this was the biggest part. I'll try and be quick. But there was some interesting stuff in here. The first thing was a huge map of the world, and all these little dots are perfumes that are inspired by the places where they land. So you have, let's see, Iran. You had Oud Isfahan by Dior, that's an Iranian inspired perfume. Then you've got Thailand here, there's one by Pierre Guillaume called Indochine. Borneo by Serge Lutens down in Indonesia. Just loads. Morocco. You have Paris Tanja, you have L'air du Désert Marocain by Andy Tower, love that perfume. Ireland. You have Irish Leather by Memo, sorry. That's that. Kind of looks like a disease on paper, but when you look at it up close, it's pretty cool. So the first article, very in-depth, I'm going to skim over them, is called The Scent Routes. And this was all about the rise of precious materials becoming very coveted by perfumers and the length of travel that people would go to get them because they became such a precious commodity. It talks about invasions, it talks about power struggles with certain materials that are grown in certain countries. There was even a war all about clove. There was an actual war about the control of clove oil. Can you imagine? Perfume is, yeah, it's no joke. The next one's called Paris, and it's called Capital of Elegance. This talks about how the French have always been seen to be the leading nation when it comes to perfume production, perfume creativity, and it talks, that's mainly about classic perfumery, but then it starts to talk about when synthetics were introduced, who were mainly produced by Germans, and the French wanted them but didn't really want to give up their title of, you know, everything we do is ours. And then when the war happened, it just had this huge rise of tension. So it was like a power struggle. That was really interesting about how French is seen as, you know, the most elegant taste in perfumery. This one here, The Sense of Babel. This one, Babel, I can't remember what this one was about. I can't remember that one. I'm really sorry. I read it a couple of days ago. That's again a little bit about French taste. And aesthetics. Then it talks about perfume creators, the world tour, creations, sorry. Which one was this? Yes, this one was really interesting because it talked about, again, how it talked more about consumers. So currently the USA are the biggest consumers of perfume, very closely followed by Brazil, which is, they say, is a little known fact. And then they talk about how in Brazilian culture, it's very normal to have 2 to 3 showers and baths a day and then douse yourself with perfume. And that is why Brazil is the second biggest consumer. Then it talked about how China, within the next 5 or 10 years or something, is going to be the leading consumer of perfume, which was very surprising to me. And the reason for that is because of the amount of millennials now that are coming up and the power that they have to spend. So that was quite an eye-opening one. The next one was my favorite. It's called Lost in Translation, Not Forever. And this one follows 6 very well-established perfumers that now work for very big brands like Givaudan and Firmenich and IFF and all those things. And it talks about their experience living in different countries and how it influenced them, and it's very detailed and it had some really cool information in there, you know, and it talks a lot about yourself and the way that you smell, where you don't think that you smell and your people around you and from your nation. But then it talked about an Englishman that went on a train with Chinese people and how they said that he stank. He stank of milk because English people or Westerners drink or eat a lot of dairy products, and it was like an outer body kind of thing. Yeah, that was really cool. But it was, yeah, very much about their experience and how one of them in particular was talking about peach, making a peach accord, and talking about in their country, peach smells different to the country that he lived in afterwards, where they smell more orangey, and it's like so much swirling information about materials and accords and everything like that. It was really, really good. Basically, it's about how you adjust to living in other countries, but also injecting their perfumery into it. So that was really cool. I loved it. Oh, I've muddled it up with this one. You Are What You Smell. That one talks more about you and the way you smell. That one was really, really good. Anyway, coming to the back, the perfume pages, There's a whole article here called How Clean Is Your Perfume? And this one was kind of like a debate. Not a debate, but it was called Investigation. And it was talking about naturals versus synthetics and allergens mainly. And some of the things in here were really, really cool, where one of the ladies that they talked to said, you're more likely to have a allergic reaction to a natural material than you are a synthetic. And a lot of people have focused on now on this natural thing because they see synthetics as dirty. And she said, you know, when you peel an orange every time, you're getting limonene all over your skin. And she just put a few points in there where I was like, oh yeah, you go. And you know, they said, what's going to happen? Eventually, if you continue removing and banning ingredients, all that will be left in the bottles is water. They're not wrong. So yeah, the next one was a whole timeline about fruity notes from past to present. Strawberry, blackberry, perfumes that it contains and where that goes. I really like how the fig line goes into coconut because I always say they're interchangeable in your brain. Then coming to the back, near the end, guys, there's an article about Atar Libra d'Orange. If you don't know them, pretty cool brand. It talked about how they launched themselves before the niche market was booming, because right now, you know, we have a new brand every other day. And the only niche brands that existed when they launched were very classical French, kind of boutique-y, and they just went hard in with their really contemporary, edgy kind of perfumes and their ideas, and how they became very successful. And I liked that because I like Atar Libra d'Orange. So yeah, the last part is 30 reviews. They always pick 30 perfumes and they have multiple people review them. They're really well written. I wish I could review perfumes the way that these people write them. It's inspirational. So there's 30, yeah, all different ones here. Lost in Heaven, that's the new Gucci one. Well, was the new Gucci one. Oh, Atar Libra d'Orange, there you go. Yeah, that's that. Then you've got the agenda, you've got some book suggestions, which I need to go back over my issues and maybe buy some of the books they've suggested. The last little bit here, coming towards the end, is about reformulations. I really liked that. If you complain about reformulations, read this article. It might make you simmer down a little bit. That's all I'm going to say. And then the final piece of it is NEZ magazine usually releases a perfume along with each issue. I've never tried any of them. I wish I could. But it's about the one that came with this issue, 1+1, and the perfumer and how they made it and what they did and what it is. Yeah, that's it, guys. That is that issue. Wow. The amount of information I take in splurges out of my mouth. That was only scratching the surface of this magazine. But anyway, this is issue 9. I am ready. I have issue 10 down there. I'm going to slowly make my way through it and do a video about that one at some point in my life. Who knows when. Anyway, guys, hope you like this video. I hope you are interested in NEZ magazine. I will say, if you're a curious person like me and you want to learn stuff, definitely worth checking out. So anyway, I'm Atar Libra, trying to make the world smell better, one video at a time. I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.